Happy International Women's Day. I'm Kiran Chaudhry-Lenz, Director of Business Operations Program Management here at GTB Detroit and founder and co-lead of WIN, our GTB's Women's Initiative. It is my pleasure to welcome you today to our first ever GTB International Women's Day speakers panel with panelists from every region. This year's focus is choosing to challenge and leading the way to gender equality in a COVID world. Today's event will start with each panelist introducing herself. From there, our moderator will ask our panelists several questions specific to this year's theme. And last but not least, we will ask the panelists questions that have been sent in from the broader community. Melissa?
Hi, I'm Melissa Bufford from Maker House Dearborn. I co-lead WIN with Kiran, and I'm here to introduce our moderator for today's session, Stephanie Tyler. Stephanie started as an intern at JWT 16 years ago. She has worked in various operational roles across GTB and Hudson Rouge, leading up to her current role as Chief of Staff. She is involved in many projects and initiatives across the entire scope and global reach of the organization. Moreover, she is very passionate about women's equality and has been an invaluable champion for WIN. So Stephanie, I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa, Kiran, and the WIN team for inviting me to participate in the panel today. I'm super excited to be here with these strong and inspiring women from across GTB and Hudson Rouge globally. Today, we're going to chat about challenging inequality, celebrating women's achievements, and resilience. I'm sure you've all seen the headlines. Women have been disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. There's been even greater impact on women of color. They're losing their jobs or leaving the workforce at higher rates. We're at a turning point. We need to challenge inequality to ensure women don't fall further behind on the progress that has been made. We're going to talk about this today with these great panelists. Let me introduce them to you.
Hi, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here with all the other panelists and being part of Team GTB. I am from the northeast corner of India, from a state called Assam. My state is known for green tea plantations and the one-horned rhino. But I've moved out from my state 25 years ago to join WPP. Yes, that's how long I have been with the company. I'm now in Gurgaon. I lead the GTB team in India. I love my pets, my family, and I'm really looking forward to a great conversation here.
Thanks, Babita. We're so excited to have you here. Michelle is an account supervisor with the Hudson Rouge team in the US. She's also a lead of the Curious Souls, the spiritual team within our Engage group. Michelle, can you share your background?
Hi team, good morning, Michelle Johnson, and I have been with GTB since 2015. I joined Hudson Rouge in 2018 as account supervisor working on our Lincoln brand communications. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, and I love to travel and I love food. And so I am kind of the family curator when it comes to any new restaurant that we go to. I am the person that picks where we are eating. So I'm excited to be here and just share some of my experiences with the WIN team. So thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. You'll have to share out your restaurant list with me. Brenda is joining us from Mexico, where she's a creative director. Brenda, I know you love yoga. What else should the team know about you?
Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure. And well, I'm Brenda from GTB Mexico. I have been part of GTB for 6 years now as a creative director. I think something funny about me, well, when I was a child, I wanted to be a nun. Yes, a nun. Because I thought I could be able to help all the homeless. Then I grew up and I realized that being a witch is better, and I still can help people in the advertisement.
I love it. Thanks, Brenda. June is the social lead for the Hudson Rouge team in Canada. She's also a guest lecturer at Ryerson University. June, can you share your background?
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Oh, wow, you guys did your research. Good morning. I'm June. I'm born and raised and live currently in Toronto, Canada, although I have been working, before the pandemic, I was working part-time in New York City with the US team at Hudson Rouge. So I've been at Hudson Rouge for 3 years, leading social, but pretty much from a creative standpoint, almost a creative director at some points, but it's been a pleasure and I've learned so much working with both the US and Canadian teams. When I'm not on social for work, I am pretty extremely online otherwise. I do moonlight as a content creator, and I have a food show on Instagram called Big Cook Sundays, which I've been doing on and off for the last 5 years, but I officially started a blog and an Instagram last year because the pandemic really pushed everyone to do something. So for me, it was finally just committing to getting some proper equipment and filming stuff. So every weekend I'm cooking and making stuff and showing my friends what I'm doing. Otherwise, I'm a proud auntie of an amazing 10-year-old. I am a sister and a daughter, and I'm really happy to have a large network of friends from all over the globe. So, and thankfully, thanks to the pandemic, I'm able to keep in touch with all of them. So that's a bit about me.
Thanks, June. Last but not least, we have Begonia, who's an account director at our office in Spain. She's a winning woman from 2020. Begonia, can you share a little bit about your background?
Thank you, Stephanie, and hello, everyone. My name is Begonia Alba. I work in GTB Spain in Madrid. I've been working in WPP for more than 20 years. Do not do numbers of my age, please. I was 12 when I started. As Stephanie said, I had the honor to be winner of the 2020 Winning Women Awards, which was a really nice surprise, and I met great people like Kieran. So it's a pleasure also to be here. Just for you to know a little bit more about me, I love doing exercise. Pandemic also came with that for me, so it was a nice part of this pandemic. I love to stay with my family. I have 4 kids. I love dogs as Babita, and I love cooking, and I love children's fashion. So also for you to know, I have my own business on that. And that's me.
Very cool. Thank you, Begonia. It's great to have you all here today. Thank you for joining us. Let's dive in. As mentioned in the introduction, women have been disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. The numbers are massive. According to a recent article in The Atlantic, 2.4 million women have exited the workforce as of February, compared to less than 1.8 million men. Almost 1 million mothers have left the workforce, with Black, Hispanic, and single mothers amongst the hardest hit. McKinsey did a study that found women make up 39% of the global workforce, but account for 54% of the overall job losses, because women are more vulnerable to COVID-19 related economic effects due to existing gender inequalities. With statistics like these and headlines like pandemic will take our women 10 years back in the workplace from the New York Times, it's clear that COVID compounds the gender inequalities that exist, widening the gender gap and stifling the progress that has been made over the last decade. This leads me to my first question. How can women in leadership help change these realities in a post-COVID world? Babita, I'm going to start by asking you.
Thank you, Stephanie. There is evidence around us that women in the labor force are always more impacted when it comes to any economic upheaval. And the pandemic was not just an upheaval, right? It was a time when we were at home, there was a lockdown, and in some markets, especially the Asian markets where I come from, the dynamics of home are quite different. You know, it is a time when the family is at home. There is a collision of paths, both mental and physical. In some markets, there are joint families, and the different hats that women wear just come to the forefront. So some of the things that really impact, some of the drivers that really impact this, number one, the mindset. The role of women as a caregiver or as a primary homemaker comes to the fore when it comes to situations like this, and let me give you a personal example. Even though we have support at home and the family is at home, I was and I'm still the first port of call when it comes to my child, my daughter. If she needs something, if a teacher wants something online, she calls me. And I love responding to her. I think we are just wired when we are at home to wear these different hats seamlessly. Whereas when we are at work, we really focus on the professional side of us, though we do take those occasional phone calls. But while I laugh and talk about this lightly, there have been instances where there is so much of pressure when you are a daughter-in-law or a daughter or sometimes a wife, when it is mealtime, to prepare the meals, to just take care of the household chores, that itself affects productivity. The second one is the external environment. There's inadequate mobility. Even if the lockdown has been eased and some places have started work, it's very difficult for women to step out of home if there's no public transport. Again, I'm talking about our market, where if there's a single car or a single vehicle household, that goes to the man of the family. And the woman has to use public transport. Now, if the public transport is not available because of the pandemic, how does she even go to work? So she takes a back seat. Even if she goes to work, it's unsafe because there are so few people outside now. The third are also personal pressure. Because of all of these and the first two factors, you're not able to take the pressure and you just say, let me give up. And as women leaders, I've been thinking about how can we change this, because I've also been guilty of losing a couple of very bright girls for various factors. And I think the first solution could be to fix the fundamentals. The first fundamental is the confidence in the entire team and the organization of the value that women bring to the table. And this value has to be measured in output and not the number of hours. And that is where I think somewhere the issue starts. When we start thinking about how many hours have women put in and not about what is the work on the table that has happened, doesn't matter what time, so long as the deadlines have been met. The second is fluidity of job allocations or roles so that you allow for flexibility. So for example, can a woman stop work at 5:36, get going with whatever she has to manage at home, and then again come back online, finish up her work, and still, I keep saying deadlines or commitments because we are in a business, right? We are there to sort of meet all the expectations that an organization requires of us as a professional. But when we do it with flexibility, we have the comfort as women. And this is something which the leader of an organization or the senior leadership has to help manage. Or we just can't leave it to different teams, to just manage amongst themselves. And when I lost our two very bright girls, I can't get over it, Stephanie. And I keep thinking about what could we have done to give them more flexibility than we anyways worked out. And the third, before I sort of go back to you again, is at the same time, while we are cognizant of women and the number of hours versus the output, because of the many hats we all wear, we must help women prioritize work as well as leaders, because after all, it is a choice of career. It is a profession we've gotten into. And if we cannot bring out the full potential as professional women, as successful women, we will always be questioned as the weaker gender, if I may use the term.
Thank you, Babita. I think those are great insights that you've pulled together from your personal experience that we can all take back away and think about. Brenda, do you have any thoughts on this?
And I can't agree more with Babita. It's just excellent words. And I think throughout history, women has proven that we have more adaptability when it comes to rough times. For example, during the World War II, women had to do men's work and they yet kept doing their women's chores, right? And I truly believe that in a post-COVID world, women will be a true example of leadership, hard work, and adaptability. because in spite of the big numbers that we already heard of unemployment, women have been able to overcome and fortify their own skills, becoming independent entrepreneurs. That's why I would say that we have a huge opportunity as women in leadership. We can surround ourselves with other talented women and make alliances and keep moving, trust ourselves.
Thank you, Brenda. Begonia, do you have any thoughts?
Yes, thank you, Stephanie. And also, I have loved to hear Babita's words, because I think everyone here agrees with her. The influence that women can have, obviously from a position of leadership, is greater than the influence that other women in other positions can have. Having people in leadership positions who believe in fighting for women's rights and for an equal society will greatly facilitate the growth of the women's movement and the women's awareness. We need legislation that favors conciliation. And I'm going further. I think that this legislation has to go further than giving women flexibility, because we all know that women are the ones that mostly take advantage of this, which at the same time can be a damaging opportunity. Recently in Spain has been made obligatory to be the same length as the maternity leave, because it was absolutely discriminatory for women having this leave, this maternity leave, because it's like when you have to look for someone for your team, they take in account that the one who is going to leave for maternity is going to be a woman. Very, very important for me, and I'm sure that for you too. We must organize academic system so that our children are educated in the defense of these values. We need to work in education at all levels, of course, but especially from early childhood. Boys and girls must be educated in the values of equality to ensure that when they join society as fully fledged citizens, the situation of women is no longer even questioned. What happened during the last year with the appearance of COVID is that social life has revolved around the fight against the disease and the discovery of measures. Bien, perdón. Hold on. Inés, tienes que irte con papi. Sorry. Okay, I continue here. During the last year, with the appearance of COVID, all social life has revolved around the fight against the disease and the discovery of measures such as specific medicines or vaccines. In addition, due to the economic crisis, there has been changes in the way of working, such as the establishment of working from home to give more security to workers. But this in turn has caused various aspects of life, family, personal, work, to submit themselves to the goal of ending the pandemic. So the remaining issues that concern society have been left in the background, and the timing is coming to take up these debates and issues again. In the post-COVID world, we will have to go back to dealing with all of these problems that we have put like on hold, and will be time, although I know, all of us know, it's not going to be easy, but it will be time to find the strength, resources to defend the women's movement in favor of the construction of an egalitarian society.
All right, I'm going to move on to our second question. One of the themes of this year's International Women's Day is Choose to Challenge, which the foundation defines as a challenged world is an alert world. Individually, we're all responsible for our own thoughts and actions all day, every day. We can all choose to challenge and call out gender bias and inequality. We can all choose to seek out and celebrate women's achievements. Collectively, we can all help create an inclusive world. With that in mind, what does International Women's Day mean to you? June, I'd love to get your thoughts.
For me, International Women's Day means to choose to do the work. It's not just we hear a lot about being inclusive, diversity, all these buzzwords and all of that. But I think last year was a great indicator of what doing the work actually means. It is one thing to say, women should be inclusive, Black Lives Matter, Queer Lives Matter, all of these things. But it's another thing to actually commit to doing the work in smaller increments every day. Big moments happen all the time, especially on social media, because this is something I see all the time and have participated in even. And really, for me, it's more important for me to see people doing the work every day, not just declaring it so that they look like they're okay with whatever movement's happening at that moment. I would love to see people, committing to, hey, it's to be a shoulder to cry on for somebody, to support somebody, to lift a hand up. People don't want handouts; they want a hand up in a lot of ways, especially when it comes to Black women and women of color. The opportunity is we just need the opportunity to be able to shine. The talent is there. It's just an opportunity. We need the opportunity to be able to show that to people. And so whether it's, even if it's just building a point of respect and trust, because I feel like that's the other thing too is, trusting someone to be able to do that really every day, to show up for you, to be an ally, to really be like, hey, I'm gonna, in a meeting, for example, since we're talking about work, if you're in a meeting and you typically have the voice in the room, you let another person say something for once, or you let other opinions, be heard. It's not just having a seat at the table, but it's actively participating and being able to really include, ideas and things like that, but also to put them into action. So for me, that's really choosing to challenge. It means choosing to do the work every day, consistently from all parties involved.
Thanks, June. Brenda, what are your thoughts on what International Women's Day means to you?
Well, International Women's Day for me means change, hope, and fight. March 8th isn't just a day, it's the day that reminds us progress can be possible because of women. Women who has dreamed about freedom and equality. Women who fought and sacrificed themselves for the rights we have now. Nevertheless, I know there is still a long way to go. In fact, they've already shown us the path to move forward, to conquer what we want, and to create a better future for the next generation of strong young women. And I think that's a fact to celebrate. In summary, International Women's Day means that we can actually do something by ourselves, starting by ourselves, accepting and loving ourselves, and by supporting and caring each woman around us. I think that now we can choose to be the woman we want to be, like a non-conformist, a dreamer, a free thinker, a believer, a boss, a mother, a friend, a sister, and I can keep going and going, but I think that above all, we should attempt to be the woman we would like to have beside us. And I think that's sorority.
Thank you, I love it. Michelle, you want to share your thoughts on what International Women's Day means to you?
Sure, Stephanie. So for me, celebrating International Women's Day is about celebrating what we as women bring to the table. And so I think about the collaborative nature and some of the points that June made, that you show up and you do the work, but it's that group think, it's that group mindset and making sure that different ideas are at the table, different cultures, backgrounds, beliefs, young, old, whatever it may be. We women have such a variety of intelligence, such a variety of experiences to bring to the table, that it's so important to have our voices heard And so I just am a proponent of the collaborative nature and just the ideals that women bring to the table. I love the energy that women bring, right? So I think of back when we could gather in the office, International Women's Day, there was such a buzz throughout the whole day. I mean, just the fun activities, just the great sense of enjoyment and coming together that women bring, even on Zoom or Teams or what have you. There's something about having women as part of the conversation that it generally just brings a lightness, an energy, a different way of thinking. Even as Begonia was recognizing her child coming in, we all could relate to that. You know, even if it's not your child, it might have been your dog, or it might have been, you know, your neighbor just coming to check on you. There's something about women and our spirit that's something that I just really enjoy. So I'm looking forward to, in a post-COVID world, that we go back to those gathering times where we can be there for one another and bring that positive energy. And that's what I look forward to continuing for International Women's Day.
Totally agree. I think we've been able to find some creative ways to kind of pivot from those in-office experiences this year, but it will be nice when we all get back into the office.
Absolutely.
Moving on to the next question. You all know what we've gone through the last year. It hasn't been easy. There's a lot of talk about the importance of resilience, especially during the challenging times that we're going through. What have you guys done throughout the pandemic to feel resilient, and what would you recommend that others do who may be struggling right now? Babita, I'm going to come back to you to get your thoughts on this.
Coming to last year and what's still going on, you know, one thing that struck me very early on was, and we're not flying now, but this is pretty much what we hear when we get into an aircraft, which is wear your oxygen mask first before, you know, so that you can protect others better. And it sounds a little selfish because it is about caring about yourself, but I realized how important it was. So the first thing was about being very mindful of my health, you know, both mental health as well as physical health, so that I'm always there for the team and for people who matter to me, right? And in this case, for the GTB team, for the client, and for everybody. And that can only happen when you are of sound health and of sound mind. The second one is just the power of voice and visibility, because there are a lot of times when I haven't even seen the team or the client, because videos are not on all the time, and we're very respectful of the reasons why, you know, we cannot insist on everybody coming on all the time on the screen. And it is very important to understand, how does someone feel when all I can hear is the person's voice at times, you know? And at the same time, when the person hears my voice, how do I give strength, empathy, and that feeling of, I understand your problem. I understand, to a client, the business problem, as well as the fact that we are there for you. To the team, the fact that I'm there for you. We are all there. I mean, if it's a personal issue, you can talk to us. If it's a professional issue, you can talk to us. So just to understand what a voice means beyond words is something which I learned over time, and I'll always hold it very, very close to my heart. You know, the visibility is also important in the sense that people have to see your resilience. It is not enough to just get a sense of someone strong, right? People have to also see you as that person who's there, who has your back, who can take on challenges, etc. So keeping this in mind, some of the things that we tried as a team to be resilient together was a lot of motivation and a lot of connectedness. Connectedness where there were initiatives and events on getting inspirational speakers, talking to teams themselves of what they do besides work, really celebrating some of their journeys. We got families on camera, we got children on camera, we got a radio RJ to come on and got the client on as well, and the client's families. And we had a larger ecosystem of families enjoying the radio station and the RJ, just throwing questions, playing music and engaging. And that itself, resilience is very strange. You know, it's something that comes when we are positive, we are optimistic. And those were some of the attempts from the team side. From the business side, I must say, like all of us and across our offices, we have actually come up with one or two very, very powerful business solutions that are in the market. Because I think as a team, we just said, if this is a challenging year, this is also a time to really come out with opportunities that we can lift off the challenges. So for example, one of the solutions was, and I'm not talking business here, but just connecting it to resilience. One of the solutions was on, if people are behind locked doors, how can we bring the brand to the doorstep? Now, the fact that the team got together, the fact that we got in the other opcos together, presented the solution, worked the back end, front end, put it together, also it was a test to ourselves that if we are together, if we are connected, we can really, really bring the best of solutions to the table. And the third thing that really helped us, and me personally, and I believe the team from the feedback that I've had, are the safe room conversations that we've had as part of the organization, as part of the larger WPP organization. And these safe rooms were on topics which were ranging from mental health to safety to, of course, some were semi-work related. Everything is work related in a way, but they were all about conversations on being very honest and being provocative at times in the safe room. And because we had so many of those and we spoke to a lot of people outside our organization, that itself helped us build quite a lot of resilience, Stephanie.
Thank you, Babita. I love your analogy to the oxygen mask on the airplane. It's so clear. June, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I sure do. That word resilience, because I'm a writer and words mean things, but resilience has changed a lot for me in the last 2 years. In that resilience, yes, it comes naturally to women in general, but I feel like also there's sometimes a negative connotation to that, especially when it comes to women of color. We're seen as, we're supposed to be strong anyway. We can sustain more because of, I'm strong. Hey, you're a strong Black woman, you can take this, or something like that, where you're like, no, sometimes it's okay to be vulnerable too, right? And I feel like for myself, who has been pretty independent my whole life, I'm single and live by myself, I'll use a story to kind of explain how I've been dealing with all of this, and that 10 years ago, I actually lived in Sweden to pursue my master's degree. And being over there, over here, I'm very outgoing, I'm very family oriented, I love entertaining people, I have a lot of friends, but over there, going to a completely different society that doesn't speak the language, is completely homogenous, and you're just going there. And granted, all my classes were in English, but life in general was in Swedish. And while I'm adept at languages, and I learned to speak eventually, the first 3 to 4 months were the hardest because not only are, Swedish people eventually get to know you and they're your best friends, but at first, they're very individualistic, stoic society. And so for the first time, pretty much ever, I had to learn how to be on my own, which was very difficult. And I feel like now with the pandemic, with most people, is single folks being at home and not being able to see their families or even close friends, even if they live close by, resilience kind of means learning to enjoy your own company, learning to find your own ways to really maintain your mental health, maintain a balance between your work life and your personal life, especially because single people are seen as, oh, you don't have children or a spouse or anything else, you have more time automatically to do everything. No, we don't. We have the same 8 hours that you do. Sometimes maybe we can afford a little bit more, but at the end of the day, we're human too, and that, it's important to really, set your boundaries in a lot of ways too, because self-preservation, no matter who you are or what your station is in life, is super important, because it's the only way it's the only way I've survived the pandemic, is that, making sure you take time for yourself, go out for walks, do yoga, talk with friends, watch your favorite movies, cook something, and sleep. Sleep is so important. It's so important. I think it's super underrated. Taking naps is underrated. Like, they're amazing. But in general, I think it's also important to be vulnerable, to really feel like sometimes I'm not resilient. Sometimes I'm not, I don't feel like myself today, even though I have a string of meetings throughout the day. And, you know, I don't have the mindset, because I don't know if you've heard on social media in general, but a lot of people have been telling me, especially now, we're a year into this pandemic now, people have been hitting what's called the pandemic wall, where you can't, or you're like camped out at it, where you're just like, I have a constant mental fog. I can't concentrate. I'm easily distracted or something. Everyone experiences it differently. But I feel like admitting that, hey, I'm not going to be resilient or strong every day is super important, because it allows you to be like, okay, so let me break it down for myself, and what do I need to do to even start to get to that place where I can at least just, even if it is just get through today and I'll be okay tomorrow, then that's important too. So yeah, do what you need to do to self-preserve in a lot of ways, because you can't pour from an empty vessel. And especially as a creative person, you know, to be able to create and think and write and translate and even just edit a picture properly, I need to be able to be of sound mind, body, and whatever else, or at least in a good spot, so I can be able to contribute to my team and give them what they need, right? So, and be able to do the work that I want to do as well. So I think resilience is a totally different thing for me, in that, yeah, it's made me learn to be okay with not being okay, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Totally. Really great advice that you shared. Thank you, June. Michelle, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with both Babita and with June. I had so many responses, yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. I think for me personally, resilience has been kind of two main things: is communication with family, friends, coworkers, but then also just that vulnerability piece that June just mentioned. I think as women, sometimes as mothers, we just soldier through, right? We just push on, you just get it done, you stay up late, you get up early, you just do it, you know? And I think for me personally, that resilience has been, even though we're all globally in a pandemic, you still feel alone. You still feel isolated. I'm a family of 5 plus a dog, right? But you still feel alone, you know? So even with June being a single person and saying, no, I don't have extra time just because I don't have that. And the same with me, I don't necessarily have extra help because there is a husband and kids. I needed to communicate to friends, family, coworkers that I'm struggling, you know, that even though I'm in a house full of people, what do I do? And so for me, really being vulnerable and communicating where I was struggling, where I needed help, where I needed to back off from certain things. I remember early in the pandemic, and I would look on social media and I would look at YouTube, and they had all these fun challenges, you know, do this challenge, do this. And I'm like, where do these people have time to do a challenge? What are you doing? I'm working, I have kids, there's laundry piling up. I notice all of the cobwebs now because I'm sitting in the house and I haven't dusted in forever. Where do you have time to do all these other things? And so I had to communicate with friends and family to say, I'm really struggling here. And the resilience part came from just being heard, just from people listening and realizing that even though we're in the same boat, we're not in the same storm. I cannot take credit for that. My coworker Liz had shared that with us, that we're all in the same storm, right? But our boat is very different. So how do we get past this storm together? And for me, it was really just communicating with other moms, with other wives, with other coworkers that I'm really struggling today. And then those friends or family or whomever, they offered advice or they simply offered a listening ear, but you just felt comforted in, oh, wow, okay, I can take a breath. I can get through this because I know I'm not the only one, but just communicating it just lifts such a weight. And I think for us, it's hard for us to be vulnerable sometimes as women. We just feel like we just, you just push through. So I feel that communication has been a key for my personal resilience. And then also the second thing is turn it off. Just turn off the world, turn off the laptop, turn off the phone. I feel like in the beginning of the pandemic, we were so overloaded with news every single hour, every single minute of the day. Things were changing, we didn't know all of the different things that were going in. And so work, it intensified, right? Because we were trying to make sure we had messaging out to our shoppers, out to our customers, out to our clients that, we are here to support the world essentially, and how we're all dealing with this global pandemic. But the work never stopped. So at some point I had to make a decision. I'm just not going to watch the news today. When I shut off work at 5:30 today, I'm not going to go back and check my email. I'm not going to look up my phone. I'm done for the day. I've put in my 8 hours. I need to decompress. Because when you're overloaded all the time with work, it doesn't let you rest. You can't sleep soundly. You can't be that person, right? Babita mentioned, you haven't put your oxygen mask on, right? So how can I refresh and recharge for the next day if I'm still carrying all the weight from the previous day, from the previous news, from the previous laundry that didn't get done, right? I just had to shut it off. So I think that blocking off that time and making sure that you do set those boundaries where you can has also helped me to be much more resilient in this past year.
Michelle, I love your message on vulnerability. I think that's really important for everybody to hear. Thanks for sharing. For the next question, I want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to answer this one. I'd like to know who your female role model is and how they've had impact on your life. So let's start off with Brenda.
My female role model is Karen Oh, the lead singer of the Yaya's rock band. I don't know if you know her. Yeah. And actually my dog's name is Yaya because I do like her a lot. I think because she's the type of woman that doesn't follow any beauty standard. She dresses as she likes. She has this crazy and nonchalant attitude who influenced the younger me to show myself as I was and as I am, and also to speak out my inner voice. She actually has a song named Woman that is a kind of anthem to me. There is a special phrase that says something really simple, but pretty remarkable. If you want it, then you take it. If you don't want it, they don't take it. True, right? Yep. It's just like that. And when we actually do it, like everything and all, it makes sense. Like for me, hope for you too as well. Thank you.
Love it. Begonia, who's your role model?
My mom taught me that women have always participated actively in everything that had to do with the defense of family interest, especially for the children. Women have participated as promoters and protagonists in all revolutionary events to ensure the subsistence of their family. And there are so many examples, but I'm just going to talk about the First World War. That was when this role of women became more evident for the very first time, and subsequently went on to last, and therefore having consequences such as recognizing the right to vote in many countries. My mom explained me that this war was planned to have a maximum duration of 3 or 4 months, but instead, as you know, it went on to last 4 years. So it was necessary to change the operation of the production system of lots of countries, because the factories were absolutely paralyzed due to the massive enlistment of the men on the age of 5. It was necessary to replace the old labor force with a new workforce that were women. And we did it. Women replaced the male workforce at the front lines of the factories. And of course, not only the factories, but also in the fields as well. And they also had to become the head of the family. And this change was not only true during the war, but also the post-war. So yes, I think I have to thank my mom to teach me all of this. And yeah, and I also want to say that someone who also inspires me is my little girl who came before, because of course I'm fighting because of me and you all, but we have to look farther and forward, and we need them. It's like that the future change, which already I don't know which ones they're gonna be, but I need also to fight those future change for my children.
Thank you. June, who's your role model?
I have a couple. I'll just do a couple quick fire ones. My mom and my sister. My mom had raised 3 of us just by herself, and she's an amazing person. And even though we are kind of head to head when I was younger, I realized I'm more like her in a lot of ways, including she also went to Europe to go to school before she came to Canada. So even just in that way, we're a lot similar. My sister is an amazing media person. She's a writer also, and she's 5 years older. So I've always called her my second mom. Rihanna is amazing. She's a role model for a lot of people because she's her own person. She's one of the few celebrities who I feel like being in social, you realize who has a team behind something and who's mostly themselves. I feel like with her, it's a good hybrid. Of course, she's got to have a team, but you know that most time when she presents herself, it's how she wants to present herself. And I gotta respect that, especially with having her own business and even just the way she's portrayed as, how she's not attached to anybody. And I think that's super cool. But the person I'm going to officially say is a woman in Canada by the name of Selina Cedar-Chavanis. She was a former Minister of Parliament in the Canadian government, but she famously resigned a couple of years ago because she faced a lot of discrimination and racism while serving in the Canadian government. And she's written a book since, but even before she became a Minister of Parliament, she was definitely a leader for a lot of people because being in politics is seen as a barrier for a lot of people of color in Canada, unfortunately. But she kind of broke that barrier in terms of, even just from her rise to fame of sorts to, putting forward a couple of important bills. And there's even a couple of videos of her talking about Black hair in the House of Commons of Canada, which is super cool because you never hear about that. And then now from her unfortunate resignation based on her discrimination and treatment to talking about, just being real about, and it's not just even in politics, just discrimination in the workplace is a real thing. And I think she started a lot of conversations about that in Canada because Canada is seen as this, diverse, shining beam of importance and all of that. And we are leaders in some ways, but in a lot of other ways, there's a lot of work to be done. And I admire her for shining a light on that. And so I've had the pleasure of meeting her as well. And she's just the nicest person, down to earth. She's extremely smart. Her husband's very smart too, but honestly, he knows to hang out in the background because he knows that she's the star. She's a very smart guy. But yeah, she's a great modern role model for myself and a lot of other people that I know.
That's great.
Mhm.
Michelle, who is your role model?
My role model, I'm going to piggyback on the ladies, is my mom. I don't have any other woman in my life or that I look to who gives me more inspiration than my mom. I'm an only child. She's a single mom, but she worked. She put herself through college when I was very young. And like, I didn't think it was anything out of the normal, right? Like, my dad was around, but he lived in a different state. And so, you know, she raised me. It was my mom and my grandmother. We all lived together, and we still took family vacations every year. I still got things for Christmas. Like, I never wanted for anything. And so, you know, she's always been a hard worker. She's always been very driven. She opened her own business. She had a very prominent career as a computer programmer for a technology company. And then she ended up leaving that company to start her own business. And so there's no other person I look up to other than my mom. Even to date, she runs an adult foster care home for developmentally disabled adults alongside my grandmother. But she also is a true do-it-yourselfer craftsman. Like, she is our very own Bob Vila. We always call her Bob Vila. We were house hunting for her a few years ago, and we came across this house that I would have turned and walked the other way out of that house. It smelled so bad. I mean, it needed complete renovation. And she just saw the vision, you know? And so, of course, all of us, we got in there, you know, we're tearing up carpet, we're tearing down walls, and she literally rebuilt that house from the ground up, just learning on YouTube, going to Home Depot and Lowe's, like free Saturday seminars, reading books. And it was just something that she loved, that she was really passionate about. And so I just get so much inspiration from her as a person, that she just does it. You know, if there's something, as Brenda says, if you want it, take it. You know, my mom is that person. And so anything that she sets her mind to, she just does it. And I take a lot of inspiration from her and try to, you know, program a lot of that into my own life, that you don't, or you shouldn't have to wait for someone to give you permission to do things, right? Yes, there are rules sometimes. Yes, there are barriers and roadblocks, but she has proven that being a single mom, having to put yourself through school, leaving a job, starting a business, like, none of those things should be barriers. And so we should continue to support and celebrate those women who are making those inroads, because that paves the way for others. So it's my mom.
What a great role model. Thanks for sharing that. Babita, who's your role model?
Thanks, Stephanie. I'll come to that. Let me just begin with, if I may, I so love Brenda, Begona, June, Michelle. I loved your answers. And it took me back to my mom and a lot of memories. So thank you. My role model currently is my daughter. She's 15 years old, Zoya. And sometimes I think as to, how am I inspired so much by someone who's a part of me, right? Like, I gave birth to her. Mm-hmm. How is she so wise? You know, when she was just 4.5, I took a call in life to start off afresh and move cities. And she came with me, right? I brought her with me. And it was my life call, but, you know, she's part of it. And for a long time, and in many respects, even now, I'm a single mom to her. Until date, I just see her always there, understanding my mood and my emotion, you know. And I know that she would have her own moments of sadness, right? Because life can be very tumultuous when, you know, there are two of us most of the time in a relationship. But she just understands. And from her, I learn a lot of values, especially when I'm vulnerable or angry at life sometimes, you know. Like, once I remember, I just said, I wish I had more money. Really, it was one of my low points. And she said, but Mama, you're so rich. And I said, rich? Am I rich? And she said, yes, you're rich because so many people love you.
Mhm.
And I was just so taken aback because I never connected being loved with being rich, and she just showed me that there is so much of wealth in what people have to give us, and it's not about money. Similarly, she's never questioned me till today as to, why did I take that call, or was there any other way? She stood by me, and she's spoken to others about me. She speaks in her school about me that, my mom is strong, and you can Google her and she's there, and she's proud, right? And there's a kindness that I also get from her as a value, and she reminds me of that every day. And Stephanie, you would know because you know about my pets, right? I've got 4 bulldogs. They're female and they were adopted. And just last evening, in fact, one of them has been diagnosed with a very fatal disease, and she's just got a few weeks left in her life. And I burst into tears because, I couldn't handle it. Like, I came back from the vet and I said, this can't be. I mean, this can't happen, right? And Zoya she came to me and she said, let's just work out how we can manage our grief together. And I was so taken aback, because I should have been the one telling her this. And she told me that grief is something that can be managed if we just talk about it, if we have each other. So Zoya's taught me what unconditional love is, what unconditional support is. And truly, she's my inspiration in so many ways.
She sounds amazing. Thanks for sharing, Babita. I'm going to move on to 2 questions that were submitted by the broader agency for you guys to answer. The first one, which came from Paige in the US, it says, the tendency to categorize women by their personal circumstances rather than their goals and aspirations has traditionally been a barrier to gender equality. In our current landscape of Zoom and Teams calls, these circumstances have become glaringly obvious. How has this impacted the perception of women's roles during COVID, and how can we move past it and divert attention back to the skills and talents? Babita, do you have any thoughts on this?
I do, and it's a very serious and a very, very strong question, because a lot of times, and all the conversation that we've had today has shown that we lead so many different lives, right? We have so many different roles to play. I mean, Michelle spoke of her mother. We spoke about the different journeys that are running in parallel, and our personal lives do get entwined a lot with professional life. But if there comes a stage or a point where we are judged because of our personal lives or who we are rather than the work that we bring to the table, it is very, very unfortunate. So I'll try and attempt the question. I must admit I don't have an answer, but I'll speak a little from experience, because there were times in my life when I went through this too. And especially when I was going through that phase of a lot of personal conflicts. And the question I did ask myself, Paige, it was a moment of introspection, moments of introspection as to why am I feeling this way? What is it that is making me feel that I'm being judged because of my personal life and not because of the work on the table? And I must say that in my case, I realized after that deep thinking and deep diving into myself that it was actually a demon in my own mind. I was not being judged for who I am. I was actually being judged on what I bring to the table and my complete person, right? But I myself was so conscious about what I was going through that I thought that I was being judged on that when there were moments where I got feedback, which I took as criticism, etc. Does that mean that this problem does not exist? No, it does exist. And I think some of the ways in which I would tackle it would be to, if this conversation ever happens or if this perception ever comes to the fore, to really have a very honest conversation with people on how we are feeling. I think one of the things about us as women, and I speak for some of us at least, is we are not very open in expressing how we feel, because we feel that we will be judged as being vulnerable if we are very open about, this is how I feel. But sometimes it is very important to say, you know what, I've been seeing this, or I've been realizing, or I've been just observing that I'm being seen as this, and I would like to be seen as this. And can we discuss a way out in which we can work together on this? And I think there is no better way for any solution than an honest conversation. And that is my only thought as of now, but I will pick on, I think Begona made a lot of very, very good points earlier on in the conversation on overall society, overall changes that, you know, rules, legislations, organizations overall can also bring to the table, where the value of the women in the workforce is seen as true value and not seen as a good ratio to have and manage when we talk about gender equity and inclusion. When that day comes, I think, Paige, you will not have that question. I will think more about this and connect with you later, but this is what I have for you today.
Thank you, Babita. The second question came from Gabriela in Brazil, and she said, what challenges have you faced and overcome during this pandemic? Michelle, you want to take a shot at that one?
Sure. Hi, Gabriela. So for me personally, and I think Babita mentioned this earlier when she was talking about work is work and home is home, right? So for me personally, I am very focused that when we would go into the office, right, my day is focused on work. And so even if you may need to take a call from the school, or even if something happens at home, I can block it out, you know, for that 8-hour period of time on most days. And then when I get home, at that same point, I try my hardest not to check email, not to go back online if I didn't have to, right? And so the challenges that I faced with being home during COVID is there were no lines, right? I'm literally here in my dining room and I'm working from home. And so when I'm on a meeting and, you know, my kids are coming in, I have a young daughter, she wants to eat snacks all day long, and I can't focus, right? And I would get so frustrated that, you know, in my mind, I'm like, I'm working, you know, stop asking for snacks. Or if, you know, my son's internet was going down because he's in class and he comes down, Mom, the internet's down. I don't care. You know, that's what you want to say. You don't. But, you know, I'm so used to putting it in a box, right? And so being at home, you can't put that in the box, right? And so I have had to give my own self grace, give my own self a little bit of flexibility that when things are happening at the house, don't stress out about it so much, right? And at the same token, because I'm at home, I don't have to worry about the cobwebs that I see, or that, you know, oh, I should start dinner. Oh, let me throw that load of laundry, you know, in between meetings or what have you. Because if I was at work, I wouldn't be worried about that. You know, if I was in the office, I wouldn't be thinking about starting dinner at 2 o'clock because I have a break. And so I also had to put boundaries in place to say, just because I'm at home, I don't have to be thinking about all of these other things all day long. Leave it for after, leave it to the weekend, or leave it for whenever you truly have time to concentrate on it, instead of all of these things meshing together. Because I have had to learn to be flexible with the boundaries in one area, but then be a little bit more open and putting those boundaries in place in other areas. So I would say that has been a great challenge to overcome, is that keeping those boundaries flexible, but inputting them really where they needed to be.
All right, we've come to the end of our panel. I can't thank you all enough for joining me today to have this discussion. Thanks to WIN for hosting the panel, and thank you all for joining us. Please be sure to tune in on March 30th to the Winning Women's Awards. Let's keep pushing for equality.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.